really heavy, but check out what I just found. Nice one, Dave. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're going to be working on unboxing and setting up the CertiFlat 2-foot by 4-foot welding table. I purchased this a little while ago. I'm finally getting a chance now to break it out of the boxes. We're going to set up on the sawhorses behind me, and we're going to get it completely set up, and you're going to watch, so let's get to it. Along with the actual table, I actually purchased the leg and caster kit for it. So once the tabletop is set up, we're actually going to set up the legs to go with it. Work on it now. It's really heavy. So I'm going to unbox this on the floor right back there, get all the parts laid out, give you an overview of what the parts come with for the 2-foot by 4-foot welding top. Come on off. Yeah. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you first take the box off. It's very nicely packaged. These are the tab and slot design in this table. So here are the slots that everything is going to click into. We're actually going to weld on the tabletop. This is the actual tabletop surface right here. And all these are 5/8" holes. 2 inches on center, so you can actually put welding table clamps in these holes. It's going to be really nice. Make working off this a lot nicer when welding. Flip it up on its end right now and see what's going on. They got all the tabs and slots already put together. Very nice. Give you a closer look. So I just lifted it up on end, and normally when I've seen the other ones come packaged, the ribs are packaged separately, but it looks like they've already put this one somewhat together the way it's been packaged. I just need to set that up onto the sawhorses right there and start latching stuff down, making sure it's nice and flat. These ribs are what actually keep the table nice and flat. The tabletop does not necessarily mean it's flat. It's the ribs, when it's all welded together, is what makes this thing certifiably flat, or CertiFlat. So let's get this thing unscrewed from the wood and unbolted from the wood and up onto the sawhorses right now. Alright, so to take this off, you need a 1/2" socket, and you need this type of a drill attachment on your drill to actually get the screws out. We're going to take the screws out. We're going to put this face down, take the bolts out, take the screws out, set the table up onto the sawhorses right now. That's what we're doing. The tabletop is pretty much sandwiched between 2 2x4s screwed together. This is probably what's holding a lot of these ribs in. Exactly what's holding them in. Now we just have to take out 4 bolts, and this thing should be ready to set up on the sawhorses. We got the screws out, bolts out. Now we're going to take the tabletop and set it on the sawhorses. So we have it sitting on the sawhorses right now. I picked up a bunch of these little flat top 2-inch brackets. The holes are 2 inch on center. These fit perfectly into the holes. And the trick is you want to suck these ribs down nice and tight to the tabletop. These just slide in right now. Just like this. It's all one big jigsaw puzzle right now. It's already put together, so the trick is to get all these ribs sucked down to the tabletop. These ribs are perfectly flat. These ribs aren't going to bend. But when you suck the tabletop to these ribs, you know the tabletop's going to be perfectly flat. So I'm going to use these little brackets here, these little bolts, to hold it in place while I tack it in place. Once it's all tacked in place, I'm going to flip this over and finish welding the slots and the tabs. Get you a little closer so you can see the tabs and slots I'm talking about. So you can see this is one of the ribs, and it actually just slips right out nice and easily. Along the bottoms here, this right here, these are what they call the tabs. These are the slots, so it's slot and tab. Here's a slot, 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 slot. These slots line up perfectly with the other slots on these ribs here, here and here, 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 and the tabs go into the slots in the tabletop. So all you do is you line this up in here, and it only goes together one way, and it fits perfectly down in there, so the tab goes into the slot, and on the other side, the face of the table, once these are pulled down nice and tight, will actually do the welding. But right now, I've got to get the center section buttoned down as best I can. Say in the instructions they want you to shine a light underneath between the rib and the actual tabletop. If you see light coming through, then you know it needs to be a little bit tighter before you actually tack weld this in place. So I'm going to use my little flashlight here and start shining underneath these ribs here to see if I can see any light coming through. Right around here I can use another one. One spare one. Throw it down right in the middle. That should snug us all up nice. So the whole center rib is perfect right now. We're going to throw a bunch of tacks in it just to hold it in place. And then we'll work on the edges, do the same for the edges. Flip the table over, check, make sure everything's nice and level on the top side. And then we'll finish weld everything in place. It's going along really good. Very cool table. It's actually pretty neat.
How neat is that? That's pretty neat.
I'm going to wipe down some metal with some acetone just to make sure I get all the oil and gunk off before I start tack welding in place. To give you an example of how the tab and slot works, this piece right here has all these little slots in it all along the way, and it sits into these grooves. It only goes one way, so you can't mess it up. It sets right down in, perfect. So now I'm going to unbolt my little U-bolts that I put down the center. Now that that's tacked in place, and I'll probably start just working on one side, working on the other side, flip it over, make sure it's still level, and then actually finish weld the tabs and slots in. Now we got this side done. We're going to take these brackets off, rinse and repeat, and do on the final side. And then the last, we'll just check these very ends, which I doubt are going to be off because these center ribs are holding down the middle ribs going the other way. Now we're going to hand tighten them up using the 1/2-inch socket and then do the flashlight test. Clamps on this side, and they are all fully tacked in. We're going to check the ends, acetone, and just throw a little tack in on each end, flip it over, and completely check the level of the table, which should be perfect. Completely tacked in at this point. Now we're going to flip it over and just verify with a straight edge that this is actually straight and flat. Give you a close-up of what we've done so far. Now we're going to flip the table over so the correct side is facing up, and we're going to test the levelness of the actual tabletop. I got my straight edge here. Plop this down in the center. And as flat as it comes. Check both edges. So now, I'm going to give you a close-up of what we're going to be welding now. We're going to weld all the tabs and slots in place and probably use the little flappy wheel on the grinder to smooth the rest of the tabletop out from where we're going to be doing our welding. So if you look along here, you can see the tabs and slots that are poking up through the top of the tabletop right here, all along the way. These are the spots that we're actually going to weld in place nice and neat. Here, here. All the way down and around the table. We're going to work on welding those right now. We're going to take the flap wheel on the grinder and sand it smooth. So we're not going to do a ton of welding in here, just enough to get everything bound together. We don't want to mound up the weld on top because it's going to throw off the levelness of the table. But we're going to work on doing that right now. But first we're just going to hit these with a little bit of acetone to clean these up because they are a little bit oily right now. You can see the oily residue. We're on a shift here. So we're going to clean that up right now with some acetone before we start the welding process. All cleaned up, now let's throw the finished welds in here. The tabletop will be nice and solid, nice and flat. We can actually work on the exhaust on the truck with this, which is what I'm looking forward to, which should be coming up very soon, so stay tuned. Not that great with my TIG welding skills yet, so I'm going to throw the cardboard down and I'm going to use my MIG to finish this off. Here we have all of the slots and tabs welded on the top of the welding table. And we're going to take the flap wheel on the grinder and clean all of these up. So these will be nice and smoothed down, nice and cleaned up, so they'll be nice and smooth. There won't be any bumps along the top of the table. We have a lot of grinding and cleaning to do right now, but this tabletop is almost done. After this, we're going to be working on the legs for the table with the casters. Alright, as you can see, the top has been completely ground nice and smooth. It's nice and flat. Everything's welded and finish welded. Next up will be to probably flip this over and work on the actual legs for this with the casters. So we're going to work on that right now. Now we're going to pull out the leg kit. The leg kit will go onto the tabletop right here. We're going to pull the kit out right now, get that all squared away, and weld it in place. This is the box that the legs actually came in. I'm going to open this up now. 42 pounds, the shipping label says. That's what it's going to look like. See that. These here, have to figure out and rearrange these before I weld in place because these are going to be cross braces as well. The upper part is all tacked together now. Now we're going to work on tacking in the lower part, and then we'll finish weld everything in place. All you need to change the spool out on this Hobart 140 is a 1/2" box end wrench and some needle nose pliers. The wire feeds off the bottom of the spool through this hole here. This piece lifts up out of the way. This is where the wire to the gun goes. So you want to get it started into there. Push it in as far as you can. Feed it in as much as you can. And then close that, the roller back onto the wire and clamp it in place. Now we're going to finish pulling the wire out of the gun because this is the old wire we don't have a need for anymore. The remainder of the wire from the spools right here. That gets set aside. We can use that for hanging parts, for powder coating, or anything else we need to do. Now we just take the tip off because I found that the wire feeds through better when the tip's not in the way. This brass tip right here just unscrews. And this is where the wire is going to come spurting out of the gun. Feeds from here, through, around, through the cable, out the gun. Turn the gas off so I'm not blowing gas out when I'm doing this. It takes a minute. Sheet on. You can see this moving right behind me. That's feeding the wire through the cable, and then it's going to be popping out the tip of the gun here. As soon as it pops out, we can stop pulling the trigger. There we go. It's popped out, as you can see right here. Take your tip, feed the wire through the tip, and then you just screw your tip back on the gun. Snug it up just a little bit. Cut off the access wire. You just put this back on. It just snugly fits on the gun. That's it. That's how you change the wire in a Hobart 140. Very easy. I'm going to tip this up on one end and finish weld the ends. And the welding on this will be pretty much complete other than the casters on the bottom. Now we're going to work on the casters. This is what we have going on right here. I have the nut connected to the lower plate of the mount that's going to get welded in here. I'm going to tack this nut into place. I don't want to heat it up too much on the wheel. It's going to mess up the bearing. So I'm just going to tack it in place, remove the wheel, finish weld it around. And then we should be good to go. This nut will actually end up going down inside like this. And this will get finished welded here and ground smooth. Now it's time to grind down all of the weld we just did, smooth everything out, put the casters in, flip this back over, level it up a little bit, and we are completely done with the welding table. Cleaning up the welds right now. I got all the tops cleaned up where the wheels are going to go. Now I'm just cleaning up the edges on the side, and then we put the casters in, and then we flip it back over. We're done. Okay, we have all the grinding done. Now we're going to insert the casters into the four ends for the wheels. Where the wheels go, the casters go. All they do is they just screw in just like this. Alright everyone, that's going to be a wrap for this video. As you can see, the welding table has been completely finished. It came out absolutely perfect, perfectly flat, perfectly smooth, excellent surface to actually do a lot of welding on, so I'm really looking forward to using this table 5/8 inch holes, 2 inches on the center. Next up, I'm probably going to be building some actual welding table clamps to use in this table, which will come in really handy when making jigs, welding the exhaust up for the 52 Chevy. As always, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification icon down below so you know when future videos come out. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.